I sat on my chair, my hands trembling in shock as I engaged my hyperdrive towards home. As reality dissipated and particles of superliminal dust disintegrated against my shield, I felt increasingly tense. I was fully in shock. Did that really happen? Did I really just leave human star systems with a full cargo hold? Did I really just do that? Was all this some kind of lucid dream? I picked up an electroshock device and pressed it into my arm. One short, agonizingly painful shock later, I was still in my seat, still flying my tiny cargo freighter. I still couldn't believe it. It took a lot, less effort than I expected. It was less than an hour before I was back inside my ship's cargo hold, helping transport stuff to a newly opened emporium on the station. Within an hour, all of my goods were sold out. I had half a hold full of human-made equipment and I was able to gather some things from food stalls. Turns out I had no real reason to fear their dietary requirements, as they could eat almost anything. A small fact about their digestive system terrified me to no end, but I was grateful for this event. It meant we could easily trade food. All of the information I had thus far gathered simply from casual conversations and ordinary chatter with customers and security would serve well to turn the entire galaxy inside out. Within hours of arrival, I had gone from terrified to terribly rich. I still had difficulty understanding my circumstances. The ship's piloting software could handle the trip home quite easily. I stood up out of my seat and headed back into the cargo hold. I wandered around a bit and tried to take stock of everything I had now. I had musical instruments half the galaxy would go to war to get their hands on, a truckload of children's toys and novel items, several tons of foodstuffs I never imagined could even exist and so much more. I was about to become an extraordinarily rich man. And my first port of call was my own home. I also had reels of human media called movies, and interactive simulations called video games that would fetch a more than hefty sum. And even with all this, even as the price of gold and silver remained relatively mild on the galactic market, there was enough of it already that I made back 3 times my initial investment. I still had no concept of just how easy it was. All I had to do was say please. All this time, the technology, the machinery, the art, the food. My gods, the food. All I had to do was ask politely. I had a casual, nervous laugh. I had been taking notes and using a camera in my replaced eye to record everything. I had to tell the humans about this of course, but they seemed to understand and allowed it. I had 16 hours of footage to go through now. 16 hours of work to give to the Conciliate. I still had no concept of how friendly they were. A demon of the universe that gave the entire galaxy the biggest slap in the face in the history of civilization, all without ever firing a shot. I asked a few of their soldiers some basic questions when they came into my shop. Every little thing they told me, basic as it was, made me nearly shit myself. I heard how they used their phase shift technology for mining asteroids. And I nearly had a heart attack right then and there. The entire time these humans had the effective ability to exterminate all life in the galaxy, taking every world the empires had without ever firing a shot. They could dominate the entire universe with no effort. And they chose not to. Even when provoked, they chose instead to just ignore us. The humans themselves. By all the gods, what horrifying demons they were. Beautiful, dangerous, adorable demons. The males. Bloody terrifying. Muscle structure that rivals a Dactharian. The females. Beautiful, conniving, manipulative monsters. The children. Goddamn terrifying. Cute, sweet, adorable. Terrifying in that they grow up to be such demonic beasts. And that's just the normal humans. The other humans. Those are so much worse. Several near heart attacks later, reviewing my experiences, I realized just how close we as a galaxy came to the point of complete obliteration. Everyone needed to know. As I entered concordant space, I disengaged my hyperdrive and headed for the docking bay of the local security office. Before I could do much though, I was hailed by the local security unit. The scaly, lizard-like apparition of a Dactharian appeared on my monitor. "Attention Empyrean ship, you have entered the sovereign territory of HFY." He stopped and an expression of shock came over him. "Ah! What in the void happened to you?" He was clearly regarding my present condition. My usual dark blue skin tone had gone almost completely pale, cyan like a newborn. My eyes were gray, sunk into my skull like I had been deprived of sustenance for too long. I looked like a ghost, like a dead man walking the world. Not really. I feel as if I have just taken on Dragmoldeth the Voided One armed with only a dagger. "Can I dock please? I need fuel," I said weakly, trying to calm down to no avail. "Bay 47. I will have a medical team on standby," he replied, then gave me the codes to enter the area. I was now shaking, unable to control my nerves any longer. 10 minutes later my ship was docked at the station. I was on a medical bed breathing through a mask and 3 high-class officers were staring down at me. My color had returned. As ridiculous as the Dakathani were, they were less terrifying than the humans. "Now you've had the chance to relax, what in the absolute hell happened?" one of the officers asked, presumably the local commissar. "The humans," I said. A groan of shock and anger erupted. They let me trade with them." The groans and angry statements suddenly stopped. "Wait. What? Why you traded with the humans?" "Yeah. I did. Fucking terrifying creatures." I docked with one of their stations, and asked them very politely if I could trade with them. Before I knew it I was phased into their state and an hour later, I had this. I coldly explained, and handed them a copy of my Federation merchant's license. They stared at it with wonder for a moment before handing it back. "So? They let you in? And they traded and sold things?" I nodded blankly. "So? What the hell happened to you? You look like they drained all of your blood for experiments," one asked. "Well, technically they did ask for a blood sample, but that's for an entirely different reason. I'll talk about that later. Please just give me a moment." "Ah. Where did I put it?" I said to myself and searched my person. I found it in a back pocket and handed over my Galactic Merchants Guild license to the officers. "I have human goods for sale or trade. Musical instruments, food, art, toys, children's playthings and an endless library of digital media. As soon as I can walk again, I will open my shop." They stared at me with a crooked brow and handed the card back with a shocked expression. "Ah. I see. Oh. Wait, you are Saranai, yes. You want access to my recording, don't you?" I looked right back at them with an equally crooked brow. "Well. Yes, please. If you don't mind." "I do mind. But, since you asked nicely, here you are." I deliberately saved it on drive for just this reason. "I'm done here, I'm going to open my shop," I said with a sigh and handed a chip over. The lowest ranked officer grabbed it from his officers and quickly hurried to the briefing room to decode and review it. The other 2 followed me back to my ship and I opened the side cargo hangar bay, displaying some of the items available. The highest-ranking officer gravitated almost instantly towards a large display of fancy-looking blades and swords, while the other found himself reading some books while I got set up. Within a few minutes the storefront had been set up, I made a makeshift sign and opened the shop. The highest-rank officer approached and was holding a weapon, one of the swords. "Ah, that one. The so-called Kopesh sword. According to the humans, that blade design is almost 3,000 years old. Steel made. This one is a replica of course, but apparently their blacksmiths still produce ancient weapons out of pride." I explained calmly, using my bionic eye to look at the archive data I had. This is a military outpost, so we don't have that much to trade for it. How much? He replied. Consider it a gentleman's agreement, you can have that one. First purchase for all new faction customers is free of charge, but after that, I accept either guild coin or convertible currency. I replied calmly. The officer smiled, at least in the way that a giant lizard can smile, and stepped back, trying to figure out how to use his new blade. He seemed to really like it. Balance is strange, but I can see this thing being useful. The other officer came up to me, gave me a handful of 5 guild coins, and walked away reading a book about World War I. After about an hour, a fellow merchant, this one a shrewd Dakathani I knew too well, appeared among the crowd of soldiers that had formed. Thrax Tran. Good to see you are alive. Word on the street is that you have new stock. He said calmly. That's one way to put it, Narenth. Indeed I do. Peruse my wares, dear sir. I'm certain we can find something that meets your niche. I said with a smile and showed him in. Dakathani were warriors and fighters, obligate carnivores with a sense of duty, honor and whatnot. A warrior culture of absolute repute, most famed for being the galaxy's best, and most reliable mercenary force. To find a merchant among their ranks, especially a shrewd operator like Narenth, is an extraordinarily rare find. He perused my wares for a few minutes before quickly rushing back to me. He grabbed me and stared straight into my eyes. What is that smell? He growled. Food. The humans gave me a selection of meats, vegetables and other such things. I'll show you to the meat locker. I have something you might be interested in. I replied, waiting for him to put me down. He did so and remained close by as I opened a refrigerated box full of some dried food preserves. I grabbed one such and held it up to him. The floor was getting wet. The smell was driving him nuts, and he, plus every other Dakathani in sniffing range, was drooling uncontrollably. This is called biltong, and this is called jerky. Preserved meats, salted, cured, flavored. There are nearly 600 different varieties of meat, plus a host of flavors for each meat type, and each one has a different style of preparation. The Dakathani would love humanity. They are artists when it comes to food. And as you can tell by their swordsmithing. Weapons as well. I explained and handed him the meat stick. He grabbed it, sinking his razor-sharp teeth into it. It was almost as if his heart completely melted on tasting the food. Almost as if he was eating the best meal in his life. It was a small snack, but he finished it quickly. I will purchase your entire stock of these meats for 2,000 guild coins. He loudly proclaimed. I have a better idea. I will take a 10% commission if you sell my current stock here on my behalf, since I don't have a food license. I replied calmly, tossing a stick to one of the soldiers who jumped several feet into the air to catch it in his teeth, then quickly ran so he could enjoy it with a few others hot on his tail. This is human food, so I would need a regular supplier. He said, scratching his scaly chin. Yes, I am aware. I'm heading to the Central Guild after this stop. I'm going to explain the situation and let the galaxy figure out the rest. As it turns out, humans are a significantly greater threat than we imagined. But also one that is far easier to placate than we could have expected. In any case, we both have business to attend to. I smiled, stepped aside and allowed him to take the stock of meat. He quickly gathered up some troopers and set up a small stall. He was sold out in barely 10 minutes, with even the officers coming to get their share. The rest of the week went by in quick, but hectic fashion. The Casanai quickly became obsessed with human artworks and music. The guitar was especially popular on account of a small riot breaking out because of one. The Dakathani took my entire meat supply, save some small meals that the Yumai decided to scoff down in a frenzy, then tried to hold me hostage for more. The Kimbako, the eight-legged freaks of the galaxy, became enamored with the cute toys and strange fabrics, requesting I bring more of it. Their favorites were the so-called tea cozies and of course the tea they contained. They really loved the tea. The Juhai quickly became addicted to the massive archive of videos and digital media. The history books became a hot topic through the galactic community. Humanity's short history is saturated in blood and torment the likes of which none had ever seen. We were lucky, they decided simply to ignore us. Extremely lucky. The recording I got with my eye had become a hotly debated topic on the galactic stage, with some empires cowering in fear, others in shock and awe. We dodged the biggest bullet in history. Humanity has a vicious history of military prowess and brutality. This alone was enough for the greatest empires in the galaxy to collectively shit themselves. Super soldiers, abnormal tactics, rules of war, an almost limitless supply of ingenuity and insanity in equal measure. And even a cult that worshipped machines to such an extent they built warships that could wipe out entire armadas alone. It was at this point we all realized just how close we all came to extinction. A month after my sojourn into human space at New Hawaii, I was at the helm of a guild cargo freighter, one of the largest in the fleet. 24 diplomats from every empire had set up shop in their own offices on board, while a registered merchant from each species was on board to hopefully acquire new wares. I entered New Hawaii once more, this time with a massive heavily armed ship. This time the system was significantly more heavily populated. And some of the warships around us were terrifying. Once again, I uttered a prayer before I did anything else, and played a recording I had made earlier. Hello humans. I am back again with more stock for trade. I also have some people in the galactic community looking to apologize for previous transgressions. We hope that you can see it in you to forgive previous aggressions and help grow the galaxy together. Or something. I am sorry I am. I'm a merchant, not a diplomat. I'm very bad at this. In any case, we have things to trade. May we please come in? The others on the bridge looked at me with a crooked brow and I waited. Unauthorized scan. Unauthorized scan. The ship AI angrily bellowed at us. Here we go again. I said to myself as a set of tug ships and mobile movers latched onto us and slowly drifted into the nearby docks. The most insulting thing about all this is that all we had to do to gain access to all this was just being polite. One of the pilots around me said. Yup. The god seemed to have an interesting sense of humor. Well, just follow my lead and just say please, just say thank you, just be calm. These creatures are terrifying but can be easily placated by simply being polite. We are here to trade, and that is all. Oh, and unless you want your skull bashed in, I'd recommend not talking to the tall ones in powered exosuits. If you are going to do that, bring coffee as a sacrifice. I said, broadcasting my words to the entire ship.